Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to talk to you about how to do a measured survey of a room, so what measurements to take and how to record it, and I'll show you how to measure up your bedroom or whatever room that you've chosen to survey. So yeah, I hope you find this really helpful. I'm sure you will, and I look forward to seeing some of your floor plans. You'll need 4 main items to start the survey of your room. So you'll need some paper, a pencil and maybe a pen, a ruler and a tape measure. So you'll have your sketch floor plan, which we talked through in the last video. So we'll use this as a base for to survey your room and to note down the dimensions. So before we start talking about how to measure your room, I'm just going to talk you through how to use your tape measure in the best way. So yeah, hopefully you've managed to get hold of a tape measure. So on the top of the tape measure here, we've got what we call imperial measurements. I'm sure you've learnt about these in school. They're inches and feet, and the bigger numbers on the tape measure tend to be inches, and they're much bigger than the centimetres at the bottom here. These tend to be used by people from the States a lot, and also older people. So my mum always talks in inches, and you might find your grandparents talk in inches as well. But I'm going to teach you about measuring your room using this part of the tape measure, which are metric measurements, which we generally use in design and in this country as well. So metric measurements are millimetres, centimetres and metres. And again, I'm sure you've learnt about these in school, but I'll just talk to you a little bit about them. So 10 millimetres is 1 centimetre and 100 centimetres is 1 metre. So you can see here on the tape measure, ignore the top numbers, the bigger numbers, the imperial measurements, and we just read from the sort of smaller numbers. So there's 1 centimetre here. This kind of takes it right to the edge. You can't always see the 1 actually. 1 centimetre here. We've got 2 centimetres, which is always also 20 millimetres. But I think for this exercise, we'll just work in centimetres. And then there's 5 centimetres here, and you can see 10 centimetres. Every 10 centimetres tends to be marked in a different colour on a tape measure as well, so it's quite clear to see. 10 centimetres is 100 millimetres, and it's also 0.1 metre as well. I'll try not to get too mathematical in this video though. And you can, like reading a ruler, you know, you can see here, once you get 3, 3.5, and then there's another 3 there, so it's 3.8 centimetres, so 3.5, 6, 7, 8 centimetres. So 3.8 centimetres is 38 millimetres. And then you can see here, so it's 7 centimetres and then another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there. This line here always kind of marks the halfway point between 7 and 8. So that's 7.5 centimetres or 75 millimetres. So we'll just work in centimetres for this task. So what we do is, when we measure a room, we tend to start by measuring the overall lengths of the room. So just overall measurements of the room. And then what I try and do, especially if you're doing it on your own, I lay the tape measure and try and clear a space through the middle of the room at any point where there's not furniture, and do it along the floor, because then you can push your tape measure along that wall, and then I tend to pull it out and then kind of put my foot on it and pull it out a little bit more until I've done the whole room. But if you can get a sibling or a friend or a grown-up to help by holding one end of the tape measure, that's always an easier way to do it. So if you can, I'd try and do it along the floor, because you get a more accurate measurement than it just kind of floating in midair. Sometimes it can bend, and yeah, your measurements are not quite as accurate. So yeah, the overall lengths of the room, so the width and length of the room is where I would start. Next, you want to do your room openings, so any doors and windows. I include the measurement of the frame as well, because then we can see what clear wall space we've got sort of either side of window frames and door frames, which is your sort of usable wall space in the room. So there's windows here, there's sliding doors, which are classed as a window, and then there is a door there into the room. And then it's key to measure the space either side of the openings as well, and that tells us where the doors and windows sit in the room. So you can see here there's a little bit of a measurement here before the window starts, and again here we've got a clear wall here, a measurement here to know where that door is placed on that wall. And then finally, if you've got a room that's maybe got a fireplace or a chimney breast like this, or built-in wardrobes or something like that, any other important features of the room, make sure you can measure those elements as well. So here for that chimney breast, I would measure the recess to the side of it, the overall width of it, and also the recess to the other side, and how far it sticks out into the room as well. So take those measurements as well. And then you can see here there's a little built-in cupboard, so just get the width of that and how far it comes out of the wall. So then we know what usable floor space we've got in the room. So some of you may have bay windows in your room as well. They come in all shapes and sizes. So here's some examples of some quite common bay windows. I'm just going to show you how to measure those because they can be a little bit tricky sometimes. So basically, we want to look at what the depth of the bay window is. So how far it kind of sticks out or protrudes from the rest of the room. So take that measurement with a circular, or there's a different bay window here. And then we would want to know the width of the window opening as well there. So also with this kind of window, it's handy to know how the measurement for each one of these sections as well. And then, like we did before, we'd measure where the window sort of starts as well in the room. So that means that we can draw up quite an accurate plan of the sort of additional floor space you've got really in your room from that window, sort of giving you a little bit more floor space. So finally, don't forget the heights, because we've got to think about this room in a three-dimensional format. I know we're just drawing a two-dimensional floor plan, but we need to think about the heights in the room. So the ceiling height is super important. So we can check that, you know, we're not specifying wardrobes that might be too tall for the room, or a light fitting that somebody might bang their head on. So the ceiling height is really important. The other thing that's important is the sill height, which is a window sill height. So that's kind of where the window sits in the room. If you imagine taking a measurement from the floor up to the windowsill, so we know sort of what usable space we've got there, because you might put a little bit of furniture under there, you might put a bookcase or a low-level bench seat or something, so it's good to know what that height is there. So the ceiling height and the sill height are important. So now I've gone through all the measurements you need, I'll show you how I went through and surveyed this room. So start by measuring the overall lengths of the room. And you can see here I've got the measurement, and it's 383 centimetres, because we've got the 380 and then we've got 1, 2, 3. So 383 centimetres is this dimension here, which is A. Now you can write the measurement alongside the arrow on your sketch plan, or you can put a code, like a letter for each measurement, and then you do quite a neat list of measurements down the side of your drawing. So I'm going to show you how to do it that way, because I think it's quite neat and it's quite easy to read. So A, and then we've got that one there as well. So we've got A and B, so we've got the width and the length of the room. So we've got A is 383 centimetres, and B is 364 centimetres. It's not too far off being a square room, actually, this one. And then you'll go through and do the other parts of the survey. So checking that wall and what's the distance between the one wall and the door opening, that becomes C, which is 294. And then D is the opening of the door there, which is a 76 centimetre door. And then we've got E up here, which is 42 centimetres, that little bit of wall before the window starts. And then we've got the window, which is 75 centimetres, which is F here. And then we've got those big sliding opening doors, which we'll label G, which are 206 centimetres. We don't need to measure this wall because it's the same as this one here. And these measurements here, so if you look at H here, this little measurement here, we can actually work that out without having to measure it. So you don't have to measure every single little part of the room. If you imagine, if you take A, that long measurement, and then if you minus off A, the C and the D, so take those off that length there, you'll be left with H, that measurement. So A minus C plus D is the H. A little bit of maths here for you, but yeah, so 383, which is the A measurement, minus 370, which I've added these two together, C and D together here, equals 13 centimetres. So we know that we've got 13 centimetres left here. So we can work that out. So it's just showing you don't have to take every single measurement in a room. We often have measurements missing and we can use our maths to work out what they may be. So another example of that here, I didn't take this measurement here at the corner, but if I wanted to work it out, I could say, well, A minus E, F and G, all those added together, take that off A, equals I, that little measurement there. So you can see here, if I've added all those together, that comes to 323, minus that off this figure here, which is A, and then we've got 60 centimetres left. So we know that I will be 60 centimetres. So I know I've got enough room for the depth of a wardrobe there. So yeah, that's how we kind of use maths to work out any missing measurements. So don't worry if you miss one or two, as long as we've got the main key measurements. So you'll, the ceiling height then I tend to put in the middle, so that's 250 centimetres, that's 2.5 metres, and then the sill height was just over a metre high, so that's 108. So this is actually the survey that I did. I drew it out on top of my on my sketch plan, and you can see that I've just added all the letters for all the measurements, and then I've done a neat list down the side there. So that's the way I find is quite a clear way to do it. So the next thing is thinking about any other items in the room that we might need to let the designer know about. So light fittings are one, so you might want to replace the light fittings, and if there's 2 or 3 of them, you need to know, how many you might need to buy new light fittings for or new lampshades for. So note where the light fittings are, and I normally do that with a cross in a circle. And then also note any power sockets as well, because really, if you're thinking you might want to put a desk in a room and you might need a laptop on it, you'll need a plug nearby, or a lamp, you need a plug nearby as well, or bedside tables, you might need somewhere to plug something in, a light fitting or a charging device or something. So we need to know where those are in the room as well. So power sockets obviously look like this. They're sometimes single, sometimes double, but this is generally what they look like. So we tend to mark those with a little S. There's lots of different symbols for these, but let's keep it quite simple for this exercise. And then also light switches are handy to know where those are as well. And this is the little symbol for a light switch, because it may be that, you've got the light switch next to the door and you're kind of placing your furniture on the floor plan, but a tall piece of furniture might go and overlap that light switch, and then you can't reach the light switch to switch it on. So we have to consider those as well in a room. So this is an example of how I would mark them on the plan. So the light fitting, there's only one in this room, so that's easy. And then there's 4 power sockets, which are actually quite nicely spaced out in the room. And then there's a light switch just as you open the door on the right as you go in. So that is the completed survey of your room, the measured survey, and also noting the light points, the sockets and the switches. So the next task for you at the end of this video is to survey your room. So add the dimensions to your sketch floor plan along with lighting, socket and switch locations. Okay, thanks for watching guys, bye.